Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Estate Planning Weekly. I am your host, Don Rolfe. I'm the owner and founder of Northwest Legal Planning, an estate planning and probate law firm located in Portland, Oregon. This show, Estate Planning Weekly, is all about answering the most common questions I receive from people working with me to put together their estate plans. And this week I'd like to cover the topic of how to leave real property to more than one individual, or really whether you should leave it to more than one individual. So just this last week, a couple who has 3 children and one piece of property that they own, they built the home, they want to leave it to they want to leave the one property to all 3 of their children. And in a situation like this, I generally advise in one of 2 ways. The first way is don't deed it over to your children before you're gone, because you don't know what kind of tax implications that could bring up, and also whether or not you're going to need that equity that you have in that property to live on as you grow older. People are living much longer these days, and sometimes having that equity is a necessity for being able to continue to provide for yourself. Second is, if you leave it to multiple people after you're gone, how are they going to manage it? Who gets to use it? Generally, if you leave a piece of property to non-married individuals, it's going to be titled to them as tenants in common, which means they all have a 100% undivided interest in the whole of the property, that they share in the costs, that they share in the profits. The problem is that once you get more than one person in there, they now have to figure out the rules of, will one of them get to live there? How much is fair rent that one of them would pay to the others? If they're not living there and they're leasing it, who's going to be managing it? What is a fair compensation for that management? And really, it can create more headaches than you can anticipate. So generally, my recommendations are not to leave a piece of real property to more than one person, even if it's a vacation cabin, because then you have rules about who gets to use it on which weekend. There are only so many holiday weekends that people are going to want to use a vacation cabin depending upon its location, and you really don't want to create a problem if you can stop it before it starts. So my recommendations generally are to leave the property to one individual, and to offset the value of that property with other assets in your estate that you would leave to other people. Or leave it generally to the group, with the direction that the group is to decide which of them would be the owner of that property. So you don't have to decide ahead of time. That's something that they would decide in divvying up your assets after you're gone. The other options are a little bit more complicated. For vacation homes, we have set up trusts that hold vacation home properties, and that the beneficiaries would be the people that you wanted to leave it to, but that there are specific guidelines and rules as to who gets to use the vacation property when, how long, which of those people are responsible for stocking it with all of the basic necessities of life. Whether the people that used it for Memorial Day weekend are responsible for washing all of the linens and making sure everything's put back the way that it was. We can delineate those rules, who's going to pay the property taxes, maintenance, and so forth. And by doing that, it really makes it a lot more structured than just a free-for-all. You all own, an undivided 1/3 share, and you figure out all of that stuff. But generally, people do become attached to real property, and they oftentimes want to make sure that their children benefit from that real property and have the same enjoyment from it that they did during their lives. But the fact is that oftentimes that's lost from generation to generation, and when that happens, it can cause issues. If you have 3 sons, one of them wants to sell and the other 2 are in love with it, it can cause animosity in the family. But it really in the end, the lawyer answer is it really depends. And it depends on your family dynamic and situation and how in depth you want to get with making rules about how property is used after you're gone. If you'd like to find out more or you have specific questions about how to leave real property to your heirs, you can schedule a 30-minute complimentary telephone or in-person consultation with me by going to Northwest Legal Planning and clicking on the banner or on the button that says schedule a consultation. You can email me at don, at nwlplanning.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you, and I will see you next week.